So today we're going to be doing a problem string for over and under. And this is actually using relationships among problems to help us solve them. So just like before, we're going to make our problem string pages. And we're going to be doing some multiplication of decimals, but using sometimes fractions to help us out. So we're going to start off with 1/4 of 45. And I'm going to rewrite it in my working space here. Now we've been doing these problems finding fractions of a whole. It means I need to break 45 into 4 equal parts to find what one of them would be equal to. So 45 divided by 4 is what I'm actually doing. And do I know that off the top of my head? No. So I'm going to make this, I kind of just want to give you a visual. So if I have this right here, this is equal to 45 pieces here. If I split 45 pieces in half, so 45 in half, so that means 40 in half would be 20, and 5 in half would be 2 and a half, actually. So the total would be 22 and a half pieces if I actually divided that into 2. So half of this is actually equal to 22 and a half. And then if I divide my 22 and a half by half, it'll give me one of these squares. So 22 and a half divided by half. So half of 22 is 11. Half of 50, or 50 like if you think in your head cents, it would be 25. So each one of these squares is equal to 11 and 25 hundredths. And 1/4 of 45 would be 11 and 25 hundredths. So that would be the answer for that one. If we keep going, in the next problem in the problem string, if I had 0 and 25 hundredths times 45, what would that equal? Well, I hope you realize that 0 and 25 hundredths, this is the same as 1/4. We learned that before. So this is the same as 1/4. So therefore the answer of 25 hundredths times 45, it should be 11 and 25 hundredths. So that was a quite easy problem. If I keep going and I do a problem such as 25 times 45, we've been learning that when we multiply here, this is the same problem, but this one is 2 decimal places to the left here. So when you're going down here, so 25 times 45 should actually equal similar to that number, but the decimal place is going to be moved 2 spots to the right. So if it was right here, it's going to go 1, 2, and it should equal then 1,125. So the answer is 1,125. And I didn't actually have to do any work. I just am looking at the relationships between these and what I know about when we multiply by 10 or divide by 10 or dividing by 100. So this is in hundredths, so it's divided by 100. So therefore, this one is 100 times more, and that's why that decimal place moves. If we keep going, so in following the progression here, if I were to go with 26 times 45, if you remember, this multiplication symbol means of, or groups of. So I had 25 groups of 45, now I have 26 groups of 45. So if I had 26 groups of 45, how would this first problem help me figure that out? Well, this is just one more group of 45. So therefore, if I take my answer from before, 1,125, and I simply add one more group of 45, then I will get my answer 1,170. And I didn't actually have to do any multiplication at all because I already have figured these things out through other problems. If I keep going again and say I do 24 times 45, again, if we look back up here, if this was 25 groups of 45, this is now 24 groups of 45. So instead of adding one more group, this one I actually needed to take away a group. So I needed to take away a group. So take away 45. And if you need to write it out, you're just going to write it down. Obviously, I'm going to borrow so I can see it, but I should be able to do it without doing that. It's 1,080. So this equals 1,080. And then finally, the very last problem that we're going to do in this problem string is 0 and 24 hundredths times 45. And what is similar about these? Again, this one is dividing it by 100, and that's why the decimal place has moved. So this is the hundredths, where this is wholes right here. So if I do this and I rewrite this problem, my answer should be similar to this answer, except for I have to move my decimal spot. And this one was dividing it by 100. That's how the decimals got over there. So therefore I would need to take my answer and divide it by 100. So if the decimal was here and I divide by 100, it means I move the decimal spot 2 spots to the left. So my answer should be 10 and 8/10, or 80 hundredths if you leave the 0. All right, hopefully that helps you with your problem. We're going to do one more problem string, or continuing with this, and just another relationship, just to get another practice. So the problem that we're going to start with over here is, let's do 1/4 of 33. Now again, I chose a number that is not normally what we would divide by, just so that you guys would get some practice using more complex numbers. So again, if I had to break this up into 4 equal pieces, I'm first going to just divide it in half. So half of 33, well, let's just start with half of 30. Half of 30 I know is 15. Half of 3 would be 1.5. So if I add those up, it is 16 and a half, or 16 and 50 hundredths, either one. So this equals 16 and a half. Is that is half of 33. So now I need to take that half and I need to divide that in half in order to get my quarter. Sorry, totally forgot. So then I have 16 and a half. So 16 divided by 2 equals 8. 50 cents, or 0.55 tenths divided by 2 would equal 25 hundredths. So the answer is 8 and 25 hundredths. That is 1/4 of 33. So then if I keep going, if I actually did 0 and 75 hundredths times 33. Now, what do you know is the relationship between this decimal and this fraction up here? If you said that this is 1/4 and this is actually 3/4 or 3/4, you are correct. So I need to know what 3 of these would equal. So if I have 8 and 25 hundredths 3 times, I mean, I can just add them right up together. I could totally do that, and knowing that this is equal to 75 and 3 times 8 is 24, this would equal this would equal 24 and 75 hundredths of 33, because 1/4 equals the 8 and 25 hundredths. And then so if I have 3 of them, which is this was 3/4, right? It equals 24 and 75 hundredths. If I keep going with that problem string and did, say, 75 times 33, just like before, all I'm doing again is I multiplied this by 100 in order to move that decimal. So therefore, I'm going to multiply my answer that I got before by 100, which meaning I'm going to move my decimal 2 spots to the right. So if I did that and I move it 2 spots, 1, 2, it would actually be 2,475. When I keep going and I try, last time I went down 1, so let's do 74 groups of 33. What are you going to do is you're going to take that original problem there, the answer here, which was the 2,475, and if I'm going to have one less group of 33, I'm going to take away 33 here, and then that would give me, let me write it out so I don't mess up, 2,442. And then again, let's go one above like we did before. So 76 groups of 33. Again, I'm going to take, oops, sorry, that was supposed to be 75. I'm going to take the original problem that I had, 75 times 33, which would equal the 2,475. But this one is going to add one more group of 33 because it is 76 groups of 33. And if I add that up, I will get 2,500, and I should do it out because I'm going to mess up. I feel like I'm going to miss one of these things. 8, 10, yeah, 2,508. Okay? And then finally, just to go back to a decimal to see, if I wanted to multiply 76 hundredths times 33, well, I already figured out, you know, that 3/4, I can go all the way back up here to know that that was close to this, but again, this is dividing it by 100. So I'm going to take the answer that was for 76 times 33, which is 2,508, and then I'm going to divide it by 100, which simply means to move the decimal 2 spots to, oops, I should put that on here, divided by 100, which I'm going to move this 2 spots to the left. So the answer is 25 8/8. I hope you'll be able to use these relationships when you are figuring out your work.